Peeps Galucia here, and today I'm going to be bringing you the first episode of my How To series. We're going to be focusing on Subnautica for the first part of this series, talking about how to get going in Subnautica, what to do when you first start playing the game, how to survive, and how to quickly get underway. So the first thing that you want to do is not get food and things like that. That's what most people would probably think or suggest that you should do. I disagree, because we have 2 nutrient blocks and 2 bottles of water. We're fine for like a while. The first thing that we actually really need to do is we need to create a repair tool, because we want to get the communications up and running as soon as possible. We're also going to want to make a scuba tank as soon as humanly possible, because that is going to make it a lot easier for us to explore. So picking up the titanium right away is important, and then getting crash powder as quickly as possible is going to be important, since that's typically the most difficult thing to get out of the ingredients needed for the repair tool. It's also typically better just to take the damage to the face right out the gate. Look at this. Where's the guy? Well, that made my life really easy. But yeah, typically you want to take that damage early on, because you know that you're going to get hurt, and it's not that big of a deal, but that way you can just, you know, oh well, we're going to get hurt, and then you have the health packs in the life pod, and that will fix that problem. So besides the crash powder, a bunch of titanium is always good. Make sure you get at least 2 pieces of quartz to make glass. And we're also going to be looking for that salt to make the magnesium. I've gotten 2 so far. Just needed to find a 3rd. So after making those various components, I can go ahead and make the O2 tank with the titanium and the glass, which is an absolute must to get started. And I can go ahead and make the repair tool. My very next step now is definitely the scanner, which I can also make. I just need to find a... I just need to make, I should say, a battery. Because I went ahead and grabbed 2 acid mushrooms while I was down there. As soon as I found my first piece of copper, I went ahead and grabbed those acid mushrooms. I don't grab those, though, until I find that piece of copper. There's no reason to grab it otherwise, and honestly, inventory space is a precious commodity throughout the game, but early in the game that is definitely no exception. So I like to make sure that I don't grab anything that I don't need until I absolutely need it. Anyway, so the reason that I like to get the communication relay up and running as soon as possible is I like to get those messages from the communication relay about like where I can find useful stuff, because they tell you where the other people's life pods are, and the other people's life pods will point you in the right direction, because usually those life pods, besides having story development with the various components of PDAs and whatnot that you find, have blueprints, and that's what we're actually after. Well, there's a lab counter, but that's not really what I was after. That's a decorative item. It's not going to help us. Honestly, if you're really trying to, like, speed run it, you should skip things like lab counters and whatnot. They serve no practical purpose. They're just for decorating your base whenever you get around to building one. And, I mean, it's nice to have. I actually really like decorating my base, but it's not necessary. I swear to you, I saw... Oh, here we go. There it is. I saw a sea glide fragment in this box, and I really wanted to grab that. So now we only need 1 more piece for the sea glide fragment and 1 more piece for the mobile vehicle base. So we're off to a great start. We got lucky because our thing happened to land right next to this. It's kind of hard to explain where stuff is. I always kind of just pop up so I can show you where I am in relation to the Aurora, but it does get kind of difficult to really explain exactly where I'm located. But the more you play this game, the more you'll start to notice the layout and kind of find your way around. So we're going to have to deal with these stalkers a little bit, because the next thing we need to do is grab a bunch of these seed clusters to make silicon. Note that I haven't eaten anything yet, because the nutrition, even though it told me to, the nutrition block does do 75 food, so we're going to wait till we get down to that 25%. That's why we don't bother doing any kind of fishing early in the game for food or water. Like I said, we have the nutrients we need out the gate. Ignore those in the beginning. So, with that silicon and a piece of titanium, we can make the knife. That'll make it so that we don't have to worry about the stalkers around our source of those as much. It'll also make sure that we can collect the vines now, because we're going to need that for the next thing that I'm going to build. I also want to go back, now that I have the inventory space, to collect more to get the silicon rubber for fins. But the other thing that we're really trying to get is the radiation suit done, which takes fiber mesh. And the fiber mesh is made by the vines, so we will have to go cut that up. That's why we grab this. I try to get the radiation suit made before I have to deal with the Aurora exploding, because the Aurora will flood the area with radiation, and I don't want to be limited or inhibited in any way for my exploration and resource finding, blueprint finding, so on and so forth, by the Aurora's explosion. So getting the radiation suit as soon as possible is a huge plus. I also want to get onto the Aurora as soon as possible. That is a huge goal of mine, and is the thing that you should ultimately be rushing towards, as it is one of the biggest sources in the game for blueprints, food and water resources, all kinds of great stuff. And look at that, a debris field. Really lucked out with the mobile vehicle bay early on in the game. Really lucked out with that. Oh, this place. Yes. Okay, so there's going to be actually quite a few things that we can get here typically. Yeah, early on, before the Aurora even explodes, there are some smaller chunks of places like this where you can find a couple fragments. So as you're going around doing your thing, definitely make sure to keep an eye out for these debris fields. That is going to be your only source of blueprints early on before the Aurora explodes. And starting off right out the gate with the ability to create the mobile vehicle bay is a huge advantage. A certain amount of this is certainly going to be based on luck and just coming across these things, but keeping mindful that you're going to be looking for these things and keeping your eyes open for these small debris fields is what's going to give you the early game advantage. It's probably worth noting, as I just picked up that stalker tooth, it depends on your gameplay. Honestly, like, it's really a luck of the draw with the stalker teeth. They don't routinely drop most of the time, and then other times they seem to just randomly drop, like, all the time. So even though I said to be cautious with your inventory space, if you see a stalker tooth early on, it is actually worth to go ahead and pick that up, because you're definitely going to use it. But I got the creep vines that I wanted. You want to get 4. They take up a lot of inventory space for some reason, so when you pick those up, make sure that you leave yourself with enough inventory space to actually tackle that. And since they were, like, directly in my face and there was no harm in doing it, I went ahead and picked up a couple of fish while I was at it. So, we can now make the fins, which is going to increase our mobility. That's one of the biggest early on things that we want to do, is increase our mobility. It's a huge part of what we're after. The other part is the radiation suit, which I still need 1 piece of lead for, so that we're going to have to just keep hunting for. It does take a while to get all of the various pieces that you're going to want for certain things. Like, lead is only going to become available by random chance from breaking the stone, so we'll keep hunting for it, and I'm sure it'll turn up sometime soon. Okay, we also got our first distress call, which is from Site 3, which is actually really good because that has a broken sea glide inside of it. It also typically has the larger air tank blueprint, which we can't use right now anyway, but obviously it's nice to have. But it does have a damaged sea glide inside of it, and the damaged sea glide is worth 1/2 of the blueprint, and since we were lucky enough to find a half earlier on, we're going to be good after that and be able to make a sea glide, which, as I stated before, is a huge part of what we're trying to do. We really need to get a hold of those. The Life Pod 3, it's worth mentioning, isn't always going to be one of the first things that you get when you get your first message with a distress call, but it is one of the first ones that comes up. There's a few that can potentially come up first.
Oxygen.
This is one of them, but in my opinion, this is the best one that you can get first because of the fact that you can get half of the Sea Glide out of it. Get out of here. Get out of here. So the damaged Sea Glide will be inside. We can make that. There's going to be a PDA, obviously. And then this guy over here is what has the high-capacity tank inside. Make sure you always look for those outside of damaged pods, because almost all of them have something like that that has some sort of upgraded something or other inside of it. But as I said, the radiation suit is a huge goal of mine before the ship explodes, so we achieved that goal. And now all we have to do is grab a couple more components to build the Sea Glide. I believe all we're going to need now is lubricant. Yep, which is made from the seeds off of the vines. Let's see, where are we? Alright, so we got the lubricant, which means we can now build the Sea Glide. This obviously dramatically increases our mobility. It makes it so that without needing more air tanks, we can actually get a lot lower and go looking through much deeper places. And the reason for that is that we can get back to the surface to breathe that oh-so-precious air a lot faster. So, a couple quick things to note before I end the first episode of the tutorial today. There is a known glitch right now. So, if you're watching this like later on, I'm sure at some point that'll go away. But with this known glitch, you don't want to be in any building, including your life pod, with this in your hand. So, when I first built it and had it in my hands, it made me glitch out. And see how my hands are, like, stuck now? Basically, don't put it in your hands if you're not in water. You have to get in the water and start swimming to fix that. The other thing is, I've never seen this part before, but because I had that in my hands and I was glitched out, I then switched to the locker that I just put down in the water to hold all my titanium. And that caused me to really bug out to the point where I had to save the game and close it and then open it back up to fix that problem. And somehow in the process, I lost my knife. Like, my knife is just gone. So I have to remake the knife, which slows me down slightly. It's not super hard to make a knife, but still kind of annoying. So just be careful with the Sea Glide. Make sure that it's not in the last spot. So you see right now, like, it's in spot 4. There's nothing behind it. So I usually put my scanner in spot 5. So whenever you first join the game, that's what'll be in your hand. So if the Sea Glide's in spot 5, or if there's nothing behind it, that's going to be in your inventory slot automatically to be in your hands when you first go into the game. And that will obviously really screw you up. And yeah, so make sure you don't do that. Pro tip. So first episode, and I would say we lucked out with the mobile bay. I was going to show you like a more guaranteed place to find the mobile vehicle bay, and that'll be for next episode, as well as a really good location for finding pieces of the sea moth, which obviously is the first thing that we're going to do with the mobile vehicle bay. So that's going to be the big focus of that, to get that mobility so that we can go to some of the location sites that we need to go to find the propulsion cannon to get into the Aurora. Because again, most of what we're after right now is just getting into the Aurora. That's like the big goal of ours, and we need a propulsion cannon to pull that off. But first episode for the tutorial, we have our radiation suit, we have our fins, we had a knife that glitched away, but we had it, along with a scanner and a repair tool and a Sea Glide. So I would say for the first episode, not too bad. And honestly, total length of like actual play time was only about 30 minutes. Like, that's how long I was recording in between cuts and everything else. So in 30 minutes, you're already off to a pretty good start. So that's what you can expect to do somewhere along those lines when you play in a similar fashion. Obviously, there's no one way to play this game. It's a survival game. There's a lot of variances to it, but that will be... Ooh, look at this cache of teeth. Bing, right there. 3 pieces of enamel. That's what I need for an observatory room later on. Good find. Good find at the end of the video. But yeah, so there is no one way to do it, but certainly if you follow those basic guidelines, then you'll be in good hands. So thank you all for watching. Comment below if you can, please. Let me know what you think of this new series. I'm hoping to make this an ongoing series of how-to for games that I really enjoy playing, because I feel like after I spend a certain amount of hours on them, I get a good sense of how to basically go about these games. So I want to share that with you. It'll enable me to simultaneously share some of my favorite games with you in a Let's Play style environment, but in a more guided tutorial environment as well, so that you can pick up my favorite games as well and play along. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I would appreciate any and all feedback that I can get, and I will see each and every one of you next time. Later.